So this is going to be a little quick video about how I freak bore paintball barrels. So my lathe, you can't slip the barrel all the way through the spindle bore. So ideally you'd want a lathe that could do that, but you can do it like this. So that stops there. So I'll chuck it in to my chuck, and I don't care about scratching this barrel, but obviously if you had a perfect barrel that you wanted to protect, you'd put a shim around it in the chuck, like some aluminum can or something along those lines. So then I use a steady rest for a long barrel, and I gotta loosen that up. I'll be right back. So I thought I had this set up for cocker barrels, and I could have just slid it on, but I did an ICD barrel last, so I had to adjust that. So anyway, once you get that dialed in, you know, it doesn't have to be perfectly dialed in, because there's enough stick out on this reamer that it'll self-center, and the barrel is chamfered and the reamer itself is chamfered, so it'll center itself as it goes in. But you want to get it pretty close. So then once I get my steady rest on there, I'll just tighten it down. And then, you know, this is like a 15-inch barrel, I think, or 14, so there's a lot of stick out there. You might be able to try just reaming it if you didn't have a steady rest, just reaming it, because there's not a whole lot of load on there, and it will self-center a little bit. So you could try that. I probably wouldn't recommend it. Doing like a 10-inch barrel or something would be fine, but I use a steady rest. And then, so this reamer is just a cheap Chinese reamer from eBay. It was like 20 bucks. It's actually a metric. I think it's 18.8, but I'll double check that and I'll post a link in the description. So my steady rest doesn't have bearings. This is an old Logan lathe. Modern steady rests have bearings in them, but this one I'll just put some heavy gear lube on the fingers of the rest just to keep everything lubricated as it spins, so you don't melt the barrel. Turn the lathe on, put a little lube on my, reposition the camera a little bit just so I can work in there. Zoom in. Alright, so I'm going to move my carriage out of the way. Bring my tailstock in. Start reaming. And I'll go about an inch at a time. After going an inch, I'll move the tailstock out and then clear the chips. And how I clear the chips is just by blowing some compressed air through there. And I'll blow it through the spindle. Alright, so I'm going to move the camera to a better angle. Alright, so I'm pretty close. I've got my reamer chucked in my drill chuck, just about flush to where I need to stop. So I'll just eyeball it and go in, and then once I'm at the point where I'm close, I'll grab a freak insert, slide it in. Still need to go a touch more, but ideally I just eyeball it until I get it flushed with the back of the barrel. So I'm gonna take off a little more. And then check it again. And that's pretty much perfect. I'm going to take the tiniest little bit off. And there we go, you can run your finger across, perfectly flush with the back. And it's done. Alright, so I'm gonna pull my barrel out, loosen up my steady rest, slide it off the back, take the barrel out of the chuck, and it's done. Let's see if I can focus in on this. Perfect fit. See if we can look down the barrel and see that it's centered. So my purpose of making this video is just to show you that it's actually pretty simple to do this. You don't need to be an expert machinist. I'm not a machinist, I'm just a hobbyist. And it takes about 5 minutes. It's a $20 reamer, and you can freak bore your own barrels.